Howdy all y'all, ElixirQuiver here with a new how-to. We're going to be getting ourselves all of these enchantments on the same gear as well as the coveted Protection 5. Yes, Protection 5 is possible, and I'm going to show you how. This was first showcased by a YouTuber called MiSkeaken, and then further shown how you can bring not only levels, that's why we have 2000, but also items all the way back into the past to do so, making it so it's a lot easier and less grindy in the past. Now, we're going to be using a method to get this stuff to our world safely called the nether swap. And what that's going to be is pretty basic. We're going to take one save file, because we're going to do all this on a separate save file, and then we're going to swap the nethers so we can get the items, and then we'll swap the nethers back where they're supposed to be so that we have the proper nether. You kind of can think of it as a multiverse situation. Now, with all that in mind, there are a couple of things we got to think about. First, we are going to be going back in time. When we do this, there's always the risk of world corruption and bad things to happen. That is why I'm promoting the nether swap method. We will be using either a fresh install from 1.21.11 or older, or use a backup of your current world. If you happen to have a backup from 1.21 or before, allowing us to go back and forward in time, then you'll have access to all your current builds, your current farms, and it'll make life even easier, and it will feel like you're doing it in your actual main world. Preparation is key, so we're going to make sure that we have a minimum of 2,000 levels. You could get away with less, but it's very likely you're going to need more. And then we're going to also do ourselves the prep of getting fire, blast, and projectile on all of our gear separately, as well as the damage types for our axe and our sword. Then we're going to need at least this much. You may actually need less than this, but it is heavily dependent on random numbers and chance. So we're going to be enchanting these books. We need to get ourselves 4 separate level 5 enchantments, whether it's sharpness or efficiency or bane. And then we need to get an unbreaking 3 for an elytra we're going to do as well. However, when we're doing that, we have to use 30 enchantments per attempt, and you don't know what that enchant is at all. It literally could be a level 1 enchantment and completely wasted 30 levels. That's why it's so important to have those 2,000 levels. Another important thing as a tip that we could do to save our very important levels is bring ourselves a stack and a half of wood per stack of bookshelves, because one point we're going to have to place our items on the floor or our inventory will get deleted, and then we're going to have to pick them up to continue moving back in time. You cannot pick up bookshelves without silk touch, so you could either enchant and waste a bunch of enchantments trying to get silk touch on something, or you could just spend a little extra time crafting them back into bookshelves. We got ourselves food in the form of hay bales. We're bringing ourselves string. It's very important that it's string and not wool, because wool, for some reason, is an item that gets deleted. Its code must be different, but the string is not. So we can make our wool to make beds with string. We need a few anvils. We're actually going to take this guy. We're going to put him in here because we don't need him until we're right here. Couple of anvils to combine level 4 books and level 3 books to 4 books so that we can make a bunch of level 5 enchantments. Of course, we got to have our enchanting table, water, lava, pretty standard in case we need to make some stone or anything like that. We're going to bring ourselves iron for temporary gear tools. We're going to bring coal for light and fuel, redstone if we need to make any redstone machines. We'll need to bring some obsidian for a nether portal, because we will be needing blaze powder for going to the end and getting an elytra, and then some basic tools, some flight, and some food. After all that explanation, it's time to get into the tutorial. We're going to need to pick up our box of supplies. We're going to leave this shulker box. Now, it's very important that you record your coordinates so that you can come back here to this cache. We're going to be leaving it here so that it doesn't get deleted during a chunk reset. Now that we're a safe distance, we're going to take our items here and we're going to create a perimeter. We're going to place every single item so that it doesn't delete, because one of the first stops is going to cause our inventory to reset, but not our world generation or our levels. Now that you've placed everything, you got your string in a corner where you're going to be able to wash it away, making quicker pickup. You got all of your pickaxe items in one area so you don't have to swap out, and you got all your wood items in another area. If you choose to not place the extra wood and craft the bookshelves back into bookshelves after you harvest them with an unenchanted axe, you can place yourself the enchanting setup ahead of time. However, the levels are very difficult to get at this level, and with it snowing, I think it's time to dial it back. As you'll see, we have a few items still in our inventory, and they unfortunately will get wiped. Making a backup is always a good idea when it asks you to. We're in 1.19.2. This is our first step backwards. And the thing you'll notice is we still do have our experience levels. However, we no longer have anything in our inventory. That's why we placed it all. Once you've gathered all of your stuff, don't bother putting it back away. We're going to save and quit, and we're going to start moving backwards again. Moving down to 1.17.1, the world changes. You may notice there's a bunch of mobs floating around in the ocean. I got really lucky, and I spawned still in water. So what you want to do when you move to this one is, just to be safe, full health, full hunger, holding spacebar, and have your pickaxe in your hand at that time, because I could have spawned and loaded into these chunks here, where then I would be suffocating and could risk losing everything. Once you're safe from the world generation, find yourself another area that's nice and flat, and we're going to continue moving backwards. The terrain generated once again. Now we are actually in Seed World 0, which will make finding future things very easy, because we can all easily just use chunk base to find things like the end portal when we need to get there. However, go ahead and find yourself a nice flat area to log out in, and we're going to continue moving back. Just making a quick stop at 114.2. We're going to continue moving on down. We're doing baby steps just to prevent us from losing any items or getting stuck in a block or just world corruption while we move down. Moving back up won't be that bad. Moving down to 1.10.2, we might notice a few things. First of all, you might notice a difficulty opening your inventory or moving around because all of the keys have been reset. And as well as that, you might notice that all of the durability on our items has been reset. If there were enchants on them, they also have reset. Once you're down to 1.8.9, it's time to reset up a shop, and make sure this time that you do, in fact, preset yourself a enchanting setup, because we will be using it a lot. Make sure you torch spam the place, because we are in old spawn rules, meaning they only need a light level of 7 or lower to spawn hostiles, making it much more likely something will get us in our little base of operations here. Finally, it's time to say goodbye to 1.8.9, but first, we're going to toss all of our items on the floor, and I'll show you why. We are now moving down to 1.7.10, and as you see, those guys kind of glitched out there, and they're stone. That is not what we used to have. We now don't have any items again, but that's because we threw it on the floor. But we did get some stuff. We got some stone. It converted to stone. It's weird. Don't know why. We can use some of this transmuted stone to get ourselves our cobblestone so we can get our iron back, but we're not going to pull everything down this time. We do not want to have Silk Touch on our axe because we want the books. We're going to come here and we're going to start enchanting them. And something you'll notice is that you don't get to know what the enchantment is. And once we do this, you'll also notice that our levels went down quite a bit. That is why we want to have so many levels. We carved through a lot of levels. As you can see, we have a bunch of garbage books here with various enchantments. And this is the one we really care about. We got ourselves enough to create ourselves 4 pieces of gear. So there, 4 and 4 makes 5. 3 and 3 will make 4. 3 and 3 makes 4, makes 5 there. So now we have 2, 3, 4. And then finally, we managed to get ourselves only 2 books that had unbreaking on them. So that was pretty scary. We now just need to turn around and turn these into their respected level 5 books. Mine up all of your diamonds, and now we can craft ourselves the diamond gear we're going to need. And these leftover diamonds we're allowed to keep for ourselves. So let's make ourselves an extra set of gear. Grab a couple of anvils, grab your gear that you need to enchant with the weird enchantments, as well as the weird enchantments, leaving behind the unbreaking 3. Double check and write down your coordinates, because we'll be coming back to this area. Once you're a safe distance away, build yourself a little box and make sure to torch spam it, because we don't want to lose anything here. Now, in order to go even farther in the past, we're actually going to have to get a third-party launcher called Betacraft. You're going to find it at betacraft.uk. It has archived official, legitimate versions of the game that even the Microsoft Minecraft launcher no longer has as an option. So it's the same game. Don't feel bad that you did have to use a mod in order to go to this point. We're going to click download, and then you're going to pick one of these. Once it opens, you can open file or just tell it to open. From there, it should look something like this. We're going to enter our name. We're going to select the version, and it's quite a ways down there. We're going to be going to version 1249A. There we go. Then once we have those selected, we're going to press play. It may take a second for it to finish loading. We're going to go to single player. We're going to create a new world and create world. We're going to go to options. We're going to video settings. Let's make this load on fast so it's quicker, and we're going to take our distance, render distance, as small as possible so we don't risk loading any of our past areas. Click done, done, save and quit. Don't leave quite yet. Once you've logged out and made the temporary save file, we're going to go to user app data roaming, and we're going to go to .minecraft first. We're going to go to saves, right click, we're going to copy that. Then we're going to go to Betacraft. We're going to window back from .minecraft. We're going to window back to this so we can go .betacraft, open up default instances, open up saves, then paste. So you paste your world into this. Close that, go back to single player, and now we have 2 options. We're going to open up this. I have a few extra items. We're going to want to bring a pair of leather boots and a golden helmet as well, so that we can take advantage of having the better enchant on gear that is circumstantial, as well as we've got ourselves a couple of different books, and I'm going to show you some. So when they first added the anvil, they forgot to add the restriction that you couldn't take something like diamond boots and efficiency, and put enchantments that don't belong on the gear on it. That means, for example, knockback 2, we can put it on our pickaxe to knock away any creepers that surprise us while mining, or we could even put looting on our axe. We can do any enchantment. we want. We literally could put every single enchantment in the game as of, 1.4-ish when they added the anvil. You could apply all of them to one thing, but we don't need to do that. All we need to do is apply a level 5 enchantment to all of the gear we have, any fun enchantments. You could have even enchanted your bread, but that is not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is just to show you how you can get level 5 enchants in survival on your gear. And now we're going to log out of Betacraft. We are actually done with Betacraft, so we're going to save and quit. We're going to go back to opening our Minecraft shortcut. We're going to go to roaming though, because we need to go to Betacraft. Then we need to go to saves in the default instances. Highlight all of this. Copy all of this. Move back to the .roaming so we can go to Minecraft. Scroll on down to the saves file. Open up our thing here. We'll throw this one away, and we will paste in the one that's from the Betacraft. Fully close out of that. Now back in the official game launcher, we're going to take all of our enchanted goods that have things that really shouldn't have, including knockback. Safely store these items because we don't want to lose them. We don't need that much experience anymore, so if we die, that's fine, as long as you have your spawn set so we can come back here. You cannot set your spawn during the daytime. So we're going to wait for it to get dark to set our spawn, because we need to find ourselves a spawn chunk. If we use chunk based, we can just enter our coordinates to find where we're at, find our slime farm or our slime chunks to collect some slime for a flying machine, as well as a stronghold. And our seed is 0. Everyone's seed should be 0 at this point. And just kind of scroll in till you find yourself a good chunk of area. Dig down there and just either clean it out or just hang out until some slime appear. And then once we're there as well, we need to find the nearest stronghold to us. That way we don't have to waste our time with Eyes of Ender. Write down those coordinates, and then we need to go into the nether to collect ourselves some blaze rods to put onto Eyes of Ender, collecting at least 12 in case they're not all open. Of course, killing every enderman we can find till we have at least 12 ender pearls. Once you have all that, I'll meet you in the end, where we will need to kill the dragon, carefully build up a platform like this, place a block on the opposite side you're going to want to go, and then we're going to be placing an observer on it, preferably not facing down, a sticky piston, 2 slime blocks, get your boat stuck on that fence post so it won't fall off. You should look something like this. We're going to have the observers looking away from the build. So one's looking ahead, one looking back. That will power the pistons. We will then just break that, get on our boat, and travel. I am afraid to rotate this boat so that I can see better. So make sure before you do, you turn your boat so that you can see forward. Or you're going to have to be in third person like me and look behind you. But basically, we're just going to keep traveling until we find ourselves a boat to get the elytra. You do not bring all of your important stuff. Get your elytra, check your loot. It's time to get home. If you don't have an ender chest to put them in, then you just need to pillar up real tall on your boat. Break this block right here. and send yourself home. Keep an eye out for end gateways and use an ender pearl to get there safely so that you can get into the end gateway. Once you found yourself an end gateway, throw another pearl in it. Takes you to your spawning platform, and then just jump through the portal to go home with your wings. Now that we're back home safely, we're going to enchant the elytra with Unbreaking 3, and then we're going to log out. Now that we're in 18W21A, all we got to do is rename anything that we want to have the enchantment to change, and it can be as easy as deleting a letter. Doesn't actually have to say anything. Now that we've renamed them, we got to store them in a chest. It's important to note any enchantments you do not want to change, you do not want to change their name or put it in a chest. Now that we're in 18W22B, if we look at this, protection 3 on the elytra, and all of these are now protection 5. That is wonderful. We can now loot those out of the chest, acknowledge that the other 2 items are not changed. Before we come to our original cache with all of the different items that we pre-enchanted before this long time travel ordeal, we're going to turn it into snapshot 24W11A. This is an infamous snapshot that involves using a grindstone. So we're just going to clean up our inventory here so we can organize a bit. Now what this infamous glitch is if you take an item that's enchanted and you place it on the top half of the grindstone, but you do not take the disenchanted item, protection 5, and then you take something that also is enchanted, the fire protection is now applied to the top helmet. See, now it's got blast protection, and we're just going to go there and do that with all of these. Then we just pick up this item and it has all of those enchantments. And if you want it to be nice and clean so that they're not all jumbled up, then you can take and remove the enchantment carefully off of the original ones. And now you have 4 God Armor helmets, and we're going to do that with all of these, as well as the weapon. So if we go and we take our looting axe, we don't take that, we put this one here. Now it's got sharpness. Looting, sharpness, bane. However, if we took smite from this axe, or the sword rather, it won't work. That's why we need to use smite to give it all of them. And then we just clean off these to make them all uniform and the same for anyone that is a little OCD. And see, thankfully I already have a looting, I have the one that's completed. That is why you got to be very careful when doing this, and why you should make a backup, especially on this one. You should be making a backup every chance you get. Finally, let's go over here to our protection 3 elytra. We can now apply the unbreaking to it, and then we can make them equal. And with that, we have a full set of the god armor, as well as a sword and an axe with everything on it. Move on into the nether, find yourself somewhere you can make a cache of all of your stuff, protect it from the ghasts, light it up, and write down where the coordinates are so that you can find it. Then we're going to log out, move over to roaming.minecraft, open up your saves, and we're going to go to the world that we did all of the work on. And if it's in 26.1 or farther, it's not going to have dim 1, dim 2, and dim -1. This is just an old file that's left over. The one we need is dimensions, Minecraft. We're going to right click and copy the nether. Then we're going to move back a few steps. We're going to go to our forever world, or whatever word we want this armor in to begin with. Dimensions, Minecraft again, temporarily remove the nether from your main world, and then paste in the time travel one. Back out of that a bit, go back to our game, sign in to that world. So not my forever world, because it's not. I am in creative mode, as you see, just so that I can go like this and show you that it's here. So we're going to go teleport us to my cache. It's not going to be as easy as that for you guys in survival. That's why you want to write it down, and you're going to have to just travel around and find it. But if we break it open, all of our gear is here. We're going to grab it. We're going to leave. And finally, we're going to log out, and we're going to put the original nether to this world back so that it's like it never happened. However, we do have all of this stuff. So this portal, we're going to come right back through it. We successfully have gotten our armor from the time travel tutorial, or wherever we were working on getting the gear, and got it into our dedicated world. However, we want to put our nether back the way it's supposed to be, because we might have some builds in the nether we want to keep. In order to do that, it's very simple. Just open up your dedicated world, go back to dimensions, Minecraft, remove the nether. You can throw it away or do whatever you want, but then grab the one that is on your desktop and put it right back in to the save file, and then close out, log back in, and it should all be right as rain. Once you've drug and delete the nether and then you put your original one back, it's easy as that. Let's go test and see what it looks like. Stepping back on into the nether, we can see that it is very different from that little island we had. However, we do have all of our gear. Thank you for joining me on getting the new Prot5 God Armor, as well as the Protection 3 Elytra, and being able to go and time travel from a backup or a fresh install from 21.11 or later, and then bringing it all the way back to 26.1 or newer. My name is ElixirQuiver, and y'all take care now.